More kids are ending up in the juvenile justice system. That's just one of the concerns highlighted in the Foster Care Review Office's annual report.
The watchdog group warned of high rates of caseworker turnover, especially in the Omaha area. The office tracked data of more than 6,800 kids who were removed from their homes and placed in state custody, either through child welfare or juvenile justice.
KETV News Watch 7's Joey Safchat joins us from the newsroom to break down the report. Joey?
Bill Quinicia, there are so many statistics in this report that warrant our attention. Some of the overarching themes might not be surprising. Racial and ethnic disparities are, in the words of the report, pervasive throughout child welfare and the juvenile justice system. Neglect was the most common reason kids ended up in the system. The number of kids in child welfare decreased slightly by 0.5% compared to last year, while the number involved with juvenile justice increased. A highlight, more than 95% of kids in child welfare were receiving all or most of the services they need to work through their trauma and behavior issues related to neglect or abuse. Although when we spoke to some of the chief architects of this report, they say more services are absolutely still needed.
The data that we provide is not available anywhere else. And it's really important so that children and families don't get left behind and don't languish in foster care, and so that bad things don't happen.
Is the system working as it should from your 20,000-foot view?
I think in some ways it is, and in other ways there's room for improvement.
Then there are some of the more jarring figures. About a quarter of kids had 5 or more caseworkers during their current interaction with the system. And it's even more dire in Omaha's region, where about 40% of kids had 5 or more, and 8% of those had 10 or more. Plus, 54% of teenagers and 10% of kids under 5 have experienced 4 or more placements in their lifetime. Caseload is worse off year to year. In the Omaha area, only about 28% of case managers met the standards for the number of cases on their docket, compared to 36% in 2022. And the report really emphasizes racial and ethnic disparities, most notably in the juvenile justice system. We'll focus on kids committed to youth rehabilitation and treatment centers, or YRTCs. 100% of those kids have a mental health diagnosis. Black or African American girls are represented at a rate nearly 4 times the general population, and for boys, it's 6 times. The report says that's simply unacceptable and must be addressed. Here are members of the Foster Care Review Office, and here's what they have to say.
We really haven't seen any progress. And I think where we need to start is with the communities that are impacted. We need to listen to them.
It's worth noting it's been about a year and a half since the state took over for St. Francis Ministries. The board's director says they're seeing some improvements in the wake of that transition, though there's clearly still work to do. Bill Quinicia.
Some shocking numbers. Joey, thank you.